So welcome to people over in YouTube land. If anyone has any objections to me recording the Zoom call, please raise your hand now. Okay, I will record it.
Recording in progress.
Okay, welcome everyone to this EVO Labs Community Call 7, this 9th of April 2025. I hope you're all doing well. And I think basically we'll just hand it straight over to Charles, our eminent leader.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. That's very kind. So I was hoping to be able to present you some wonderful things today about testing and how far we'd got and some wonderful successes, but we're going to somewhat focus on our challenges and the responses to those challenges, because the community have rallied around and really focused on how to deal with a pretty major hiccup that reared its head about 3 days after our last call. Come on, change. There we go. Okay, so our first thing is that this month could be described as frustrating, really quite frustrating, but we've made some necessary changes. Thanks for that, Bob. Helped me with that before. So the Charmverse dilemma is something we'll go over in a minute. There's a full slide dedicated to that. We've had to restructure our full app over the month, and that is based on Charmverse. We have brilliantly completed the front end for the soulbound token stuff, so that can begin to be tested ASAP. We've moved to an agile setup with more focused time management for the developers. We've hired a smart contract developer. If you would like to monitor his progress, as everything we're doing is open source, and it's particularly the smart contracts, go to github.com/contract-level/SBT. You'll probably see on his GitHub, he's quite an experienced gentleman. So yeah, and we've also completed our credential design. Tasks that we're looking at, again, the development, it's not going to, I was hoping it would be done within a month or so, but it's looking about 4 or 5 months from now. We're maintaining relationships with partners and have told them all about our challenges at the moment, and they're all really supportive. We're in the process of creating yet another application form, as the applications have been becoming more complex, and certain people have got certain things that they would like to do with the community, and we need to accommodate for that. So we're going to create new forms just to help people at whatever stage of project they're at. We will probably have, yeah. So one thing we've been looking at on the peripheries is how to create AI DAO members. So these will be actual AI agents that will sit within the DAO, and they're going to look at how to perform roles within the DAO. That's going to be really interesting. I've got another couple of months before I'm ready to talk about that one. The legal incorporation is paused. The reason we did that is as soon as we start being legally incorporated, it costs fees. So we've explained to the lawyers the situation that we'll go over in a minute. And all of our testing that we've been doing paused about 3 or 4 days after the last meeting as well. So that was a bit of a challenge, but restarting soon. The communication stuff and the new tasks, we need to look at Push's new L1 and see if it's still the right fit, because they're releasing a whole new blockchain. We need to look at how much information we need from projects and see if we miss anything. This is, again, still ongoing as new people apply with different things. And the video work that Felix has been doing is pretty much paused at the moment as we deal with complications. So the Charmverse dilemma. So a major change in planned development strategy has occurred. Continued use of Charmverse required access to API features that essentially are locked behind a partnership. Now, I thought it would just be a regular partnership and we could just go and say, hi, look, this is what we're doing, this is what you're doing. We just need to access. What we wanted to do was sign users up on their platform, and we thought that would be a pretty easy thing to do. The documentation said we could do that, so we thought it would be no challenge whatsoever. But upon investigating the API relating to user information, it was discovered that the feature was behind a paywall due to it allowing access to all users' information. So anybody who had the API could access the user information and do with it whatever they wanted. So after discussions with Charmverse, we proposed to change the API to make it more private for users, see what would happen. This could be done. However, it was going to require a commitment of about $100,000, which is a little more than I'd be expecting to pay for a partnership. And they could have made the change, but it would have just been really challenging, and I don't think it fitted with their schedule. We as a DAO, we didn't really have more bargaining chips. The other idea that we had was loaning developers, to help them finish their project, because we thought that would be a good symbiotic relationship. But they claimed it would take up to 12 weeks to get the new developers up to speed. So you're talking like 3 months of costs just to get developers up to speed. It starts spiraling out of control. So given no prospect of accessing the features, we needed a decision to be taken. We had to take it very quickly. And the decision was taken to build our own application where features and user information security could be controlled. So we've looked at the application, we've restructured it essentially to work out exactly how we will put all this together. We're really shifting towards building out our own menus and means of operating ourselves. We had to move our launch timeline. The reason behind this is because it's not going to be finished for ICCF, really, which is what I really wanted. We had to speak to those guys and say, look, we can't sponsor that event. We're not going to be ready. So yeah, I've cancelled my trip to go just so that I can focus on the development side of things. A major thank you has to go to Chris Newman as well as Mark Hollins for making the change that we've had to do in the app restructure as painless and as swift as possible. These guys are absolute professionals, and they've looked at this challenge immediately and just took it on board and said, right, okay, this is how we do it. This is how we do it quickly. And this is how we use our developer assets to get this done. Work was already underway in relation to the soulbound token and account management that was going to be required outside of Charmverse regardless. So we'd already started quite a lot of stuff that we didn't need. We've just added all the Charmverse stuff in. The addition of the smart contract developer means we can move forward with this much quicker, in a much quicker fashion. In terms of replacing what would have been Charmverse functionality, work has already begun on the first area of development identified as the project proposals feature. So creating project proposals shouldn't be too challenging. The first planning session was held this week. As the week progresses, we get a true idea of the timeline for completion. So we're looking at a couple of weeks, we believe. At the moment, we have no estimate for this feature. Or well, we didn't at the time of writing, but I think I spoke to Chris, it was a couple of weeks. I may be completely wrong on that. But oh, right, MVP end of April. Right, there we go. So should have all of the features working in a testable format with the soulbound tokens working, so we can have people coming in, testing the flows, testing the features, testing the proposals, testing the peer review. End of April. The new EVO Labs app will look as follows. Yeah, so this is the layout. And the complete switch from a plug-and-play approach to a structured agile development strategy is ongoing. We've set up facilities needed for the development team to work in this manner, like going back to Jira because we were using Charmverse, but again, Chris has just taken that to like a duck out of water. He's just gone straight for it. It's amazing. And so we've identified all the core features that we need. And further planning sessions are ongoing to identify complexity of the work. So if we look at something and it sounds really complex and we have to research it for quite a bit, we're trying to get ahead of that right now. So this is the first iterations of the design of our essentially proposal clone. So yeah, again, first designs. So these will change over time. But the idea is just to get all the information in there and so all the buttons workable and everything usable and things like that. So this is our current agile task board. We're doing daily stand-ups to ensure there aren't any blockers because we want the developers working on this as much as possible. And we're making sure the developers have everything they need. To get this up and running, we'll be using centralized solutions because they'll be far quicker at the moment. But as soon as we have the application up and running on a centralized solution, we can containerize it and run it from within a container utilizing decentralized hosting solutions. So we get that decentralized tick. Just hosting it centralized is just far quicker and easier and less configuration and things like that. So might as well use Vercel. So this video, if all the videos work today, is courtesy of the amazing Nesta. So this is something that you'll probably never see in the wild. This will be for the administrators so that they can go in and control exactly who gets a soulbound token. If you have a community member that's being naughty or trying to be divisive or anything like that, we can blacklist them, remove their tokens, burn their tokens, a whole host of admin privileges. The DAO itself, the multi-sig signer, will be the owner of the contract, so it'll be the super admin essentially, and it will be able to control exactly what's going on with all the other tokens. We'll have many, many tokens, soulbound tokens, that you'll be able to mint depending on your expertise, how much you contribute to the DAO, how much you donate, for example, and all this will be a way of tracking user metrics, basically. So we'll be able to show, using your badges, essentially what you've done within the DAO. Okay, so this is Nesta just connecting his wallet there. So he's just making sure that, because the admins are all comfortable using just straight wallets, so we're just going in with a straight wallet, so there's no need for anything. So with this, we can create our own soulbound token directly from this interface so that we don't need to go to anywhere else, like we can do it all ourselves. And choose a chain, whatever we need to do. So what this will enable us is, again, the admin, the whitelist, the blacklist, and the ability to mint tokens to people's wallets. Say if we want somebody to take a token, or it's a special giveaway or something like that, this will allow us all the functionality that we need. So you start again. Right. Okay, we've got some updates from some project. This is Hank's video. So that was an update from the DAO. It's going well, but the development time is taking everything from us at the moment. So we are just focused on that. So let me see if we can get Hank's videos to work. Can you hear it?
Not
Not
really. You can see something. Yeah, it's not
What?
passing through the audio.
Okay, 2 seconds, Bob. Let me reshare that, mate. And share sound. That's what we're looking for.
Yes, very nice Tufts. He's done some excellent work. Just because they're so nice videos, we'll publish them on the MFMP YouTube later in the week. He's, I think we'll call it the Vega Diary. He's been throwing out a lot of videos. Lots of double layers and things like that.
Right, there we go. This should play with sound.
And yeah, getting it.
I was away for a while, and then this whole system stops. So it's cool now. It's 41 degrees and 35 degrees on the top. Then you see the regime is different, and it was arcing. Now it's very stable. It's not moving at all. I'm filming, but it's not moving. Very stable. Almost. Huh? It's kind of unbelievable stable. It will change because the temperature of the cathode will change, anode will change, the temperature. Gas will change. Yeah, now it starts moving. And then there will be a moment it starts moving quickly, and then it will be a blur. Then you can't see them. Maybe with a high-speed camera you will see them, but you can see the top ones moving already, and then suddenly everything rearranges. But this is a very stable moment. And then I always ask myself, why? What happened? What was so important that it had to go all the way around it? and have a plasma stream to the bottom, because it's really going to the bottom. Help me to explain this. Now you can see the tufts are going to move a little bit more. Yeah, now they're going erratic, and now it's you cannot see them anymore. You can see that they are moving very quickly, but you can still see they are there. And that will change over time as well, that it will be one sheath. Okay, till the next time. Now there is a kind of strange double layer. It's not really double, of course. In the sense it's nice onion layers, but a configuration I've not seen before. Now it starts wobbling. This is not possible to film closely. These are arcs and they're so heavy that the camera is, where is it? Is much overexposed. I can, it doesn't hurt my eyes, but it's very bright. And it's because I did not pump enough. Now I'm starting to pump. You will see then the frequency is going up. Frequency is going up. Now plasma is stable again with the double layers, and that's because there is hydrocarbons, propane in there, and xenon is being, well, how do you call it? I pump away every time a little bit, of course, so it's a smaller amount of xenon in the tank. Now there is a kind of strange double layer. This is not possible.
Sorry, I apologize. I didn't realize the skip next slide was actually skip next video. These are the final three videos that we've got from Henk. These we've taken what seems to be the best bits, but Bob will be releasing all the videos probably in short format or something like that,
Yeah,
on the channel.
Well, this is a nice picture, of course. Yeah, again, the camera makes a totally different picture of the situation than it, as I can see with my eye. And this is, of course, again, very nice. We've seen this before. Nice tufts on the end of the wire. That's titanium. It's interesting. Sometimes they grow and get smaller again. So it's very likely the moment of the fuel, then it's consuming very likely a little bit of the tungsten. When it's growing, yeah, it's nice. I don't know, but we will see when it comes out of the tank. Till now, it was a nice picture. Nothing spectacular yet. Sometimes we have to wait a long time for something to happen. when I increase the current, something is happening. There was a plasmoid in one of these pipes, copper pipes, and now it's eating the soot on the steel because there is a copper plate on the bottom and steel under it. I cannot see what's going on here, but then there it is, the plasmoid eating it away. You can see the sparks flying around again. Now the current is increased till 2 amps and the voltage is between 200 and 500 volts. On the bottom is very interesting. There is the steel column where this steel plate is rusting on, and you can see that the blue plasma is again on the bottom of the tank as well. So all the electrons are dividing themselves over a very large area. They are not only coming from the area of these copper pipes, what would be logical, but this plasma is not logical in my opinion. There is already eaten away a piece of the nickel, chromium, sheet, you can say, or what is it? So the plasmoids are already consuming the stuff. The plasmoids are all over the place now, and you can see sparks flying off, but you can also see it's going inside the tube, and that's of course again the plasma that's hiding. Oh, you can see the results. It's very indirect. This is not very helpful. It's very nice to see, but the camera is making a mess out of it. That is going into the right direction, this one. This blue plasma is going to make the copper very hot, and you can see there in these cracks. There is the stuff happening, very likely. Well, till later.
Got it that time. 4 presses. Right. Okay. Tiny update. Basically, well, we've got Kem and Paul in the room, so I'll just relay what they've relayed to us. Happy that, blah, blah, blah. Paul is happy to see Bob's made contact with the professor, and yeah, hopefully that emailing correspondence works out for you, Paul. To be perfectly honest, I'd really like that to be.
I really want to talk to the prof. He's
Yeah.
he's got some serious contributions if he wants to get involved with the project, and I'm sure he will. Bob says he thinks he's interested, so I'll keep my fingers tightly crossed.
Yep, perfect. I mean, that's absolutely wonderful. But I think we'd love to talk to him. I think that would be brilliant. And as a wider call on behalf of Paul, we're still looking for a statistician. So if anybody knows a statistician, please bring them forward so that we could talk to them, because we'd like Paul to discuss things with them. That would be wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So, yeah, our next call will be at some point next month when Bob and I get together in the next couple of days and decide which date works for both of our calendars. Because, is that the 7th? Bob says the 7th. So the 7th, everybody. We will be on the 7th of next month for another community call. And fingers crossed we've got more development work and some good testing happening before then. But yeah, this month's been quite tumultuous. It's been frustrating, but like I say, that the professionalism is just phenomenal. So I'm really happy about the direction we're moving. I know it's going to take us a little bit longer to get over the finishing line, but the product that we'll have at the end of the day will be far more secure and durable and reliable and resilient, Bob. I remember. So yeah,
Thank you very much,
yeah.
Charles. Yes, I can feel the pain in your tone, but I think you're doing the right thing. Yeah, we had a conversation about this during the month, and yeah, great disappointment. You couldn't launch at ICCF 26 in Japan, and I think something you missed that you may look to launch then at the ICMNS conference down in France later in the year. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm absolutely going to butcher the name of it, but IWHLM something.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
International Workshop and Anomalous something in metals, something like that. Yeah, I know it's not very catchy, but yeah, it's the conference that is held in Europe typically every year, and it's the same one that I spoke at last year in Strasbourg. So I think that's it's better to do it right. Just to clarify for those people that may not have fully understood what happened, essentially there was something that wasn't that the system that you were working with wasn't capable of doing. You asked them to do it, they wanted a shed load of money, and then it's one of those situations in development where you feel like, is this going to be where it ends? And I've seen this in open source development where these companies they have an open source model and it does almost what you want, but then when you want to actually get something that delivers the thing that you're after, they charge very high fees for delivering. And then, of course, it then all goes into the open source, but then you're relying on what developers they have, which might actually have 10 different companies on the hook for a similar situation. So you're potentially dividing up the time. So forking the source and getting what we want. Of course, they can still, as an open piece of code, use that back in their work, but you get your money spent where you want it rather than hoping it's spent where you want it. And I think that's great. Is that about a summary of it?
That's a fair approximation. So yeah, we've taken a vertical slice out of their code just to look at exactly how the proposal system works, and we're not going to copy it like a carbon copy. We're going to improve on it in a way that we need it to be. So and that's the focus. But because it's such a tiny, well, it's not tiny, because it's just a slice rather than all the other dependencies and all the other systems that Charmverse have built in. We can just build something that's more than likely just going to be a standalone application, essentially within our own application. So,
and would that be something that could be a module that would plug back into Charmverse if you wanted some other feature that they're independently developing?
We don't need any other features that they're independently developing. We are literally going to move away from them quite dramatically so that we can stand on our own 2 feet and be as resilient as possible. It was one of the centralized sort of yellow flags that we'd had, because it was really all well connected together. It had the forum was magnificent because it worked with the proposals, and then that worked with on-chain. But now we know how it all works because we actually did a couple of weeks testing. So we're quite good at trying to get that sorted. So our development team are working on it. So yeah, I'm really encouraged that it'll happen this year, and I'm laser focused on that workshop in France because
And just before we go to full open questions, just because I'm not so perfect in the crypto world, can you please clarify for people that are watching maybe this for the first time, who've recently come to the MFMP and watching the stream or whatever, exactly what a soulbound token is and its main purpose?
Okay, a soulbound token is essentially a membership token that you can't delete, you can't transfer, you can't sell. So once it's in your wallet, it acts as your membership token. So the membership will cost as cheap as we possibly can, but you will have to pay $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever it is to mint one of these tokens. Once you mint one of these tokens, it is your entry ticket to everything in the DAO, allows you to peer review, allows you to vote, it allows you to contribute basically, and there will be more soulbound tokens depending on if you're an expert physicist or a mechanical engineer or whatever it is. We need to understand as a community that you coming in making these comments, you've actually got some weight behind you, that you know what what you're saying, even if nobody knows who you are, so that that way that we can start having experts discussing amongst each other while the community know who people are, and we can see who's engaged with the community. There's loads of benefits of utilizing soulbound tokens, and the fact that you can't sell them I love that.
Yeah, so it's like a non-transferable fingerprint that's
Yeah.
associated with you. What's to stop someone, I don't know, having a wallet and then transferring that wallet to someone else, like physically handing a device that has that wallet?
Nothing, but if we catch you doing that, we'll burn your wallet. We'll burn your soulbound tokens.
Burn it now!
Yeah, burn it, burn it. We're going to have lots of witch memes as well from Monty Python as well. That's the only way it's going to work.
Excellent, wonderful. Okay, so I'll open it up to
Bob, before we start, could I just say something? Charles, congratulations on some bloody nifty management work. Well done, well done, well done, and thank you for all your effort.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very kind, very kind.
I'm sure everybody thinks the same.
Very kind, very kind. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I will continue doing as best I can, but I'm only as good as the people around me. So thank everybody who's on the team, particularly Chris, who's taken on a hell of a lot of weight this month. So yeah. Thank you, Paul, as well, for saying that. Thank you. That's very kind.
Okay, so does anyone want to fire away? If anyone wants to, we've got 43 people watching on YouTube. So if anyone wants to throw a comment in there or a question, do that. Otherwise, Paul.
Sorry, yes?
Yes, we were discussing before we went live.
Oh, yeah. Oh, trying to get some real heavy-duty big guns into the EVH2O project in the shape of Prof. Pavlos Mira. I mean, what a guy if we could get him in. One's mind boggles. I tried to read some of his, in fact, I've tried to read all of his papers, and I've got about halfway through most of them, and then just, the maths gets too much.
Yeah, it's interesting that he's taken that far and that it explains so much about matter from first principles. If you think that's difficult, you should visit his family home because it is his home, and it's one prototyping building. Like the entire building is full of prototypes and rooms dedicated to parts for making prototypes.
Wow, so he's a guy after my own heart. You see, being a Czech, I suppose he's a natural engineer.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, he was an informatics professor at the Brno University of Technology. But yeah, absolutely incredible guy, and an avid ski instructor as well, cross-country ski instructor.
Wow,
which is great. Keeps you fit at his age. So he gave me a selection of his devices here.
That's the one I saw on the.
Yeah, that's a flexible thing, and he has a cap on the magnets here. So you had a question about the fact that he has these flow guides here. And he described this, and it's actually also on the Vortex Power device. They have, again, a mesh to force it to laminar. Once it's done its structuring, he's arguing if you keep it spinning, it spins out and it ends up spraying out in a cone.
Yeah, that's what I've been familiar with. That's the Charmverse process.
Yeah. Well, the spinnings, all the spinning that's necessary is what occurs in here, rather, according to him, rather than what comes out of this point.
And yet, when the flow is straight, he passes it through a magnet.
Yes. That's a different part of the conditioning. Right.
I always like to spin stuff going through a magnet simply because I think it probably does more restructuring.
Well, he actually has, you might have seen on his website, the fact that he has these attachments for normal water bottles, which has two holes which force things into a vortex. In those ones, he actually has magnets. So it's actually, the vortex is going through the magnets in that.
Good. I'm sort of looking at that and thinking he's made a number of practical engineering design choices. And obviously the effect is still there, but he hasn't perhaps got it absolutely theoretically perfect.
Yeah, I think from his point of view, so you can see the magnets on this one and the pole. I think his view is it makes it nice and compact.
The dot is the North Pole, I assume.
That's what I assume. I haven't got out my magnetic pole finder, but I assume that's the case.
Oh, well, if I ever get my hands on one, I'll do that. Yeah, sort it out. It's interesting though, because of course the magnet seems to be integral to most of these things, but the way the flow works has yet to be determined. And I mean, he could be right. It could be a straight flow is perfectly okay.
Yeah, but that part in the process, that's what he's arguing. And the interesting thing is, you know, someone commented, "Oh, what about microplastics?" And they like the idea that the Vortex Power one was made of, I think, some kind of stainless steel, which is, you know,
how much did it cost?
yeah,
I mean,
it's
it's ridiculous,
706 euros for a thing that you screw onto your tap, and it's like, oh, maybe I can get a gym membership.
Yeah,
if I want to be healthy.
I can see the Swiss engineer having a fit over his lathe, trying to turn one of those. I mean, it must be.
Yeah, I don't know whether you see. Actually, I don't know how it's constructed, because he had
Might be
one,
additive technology, perhaps.
That's what I would. That's what I
Right.
would presume. And of course, this could be made with additive technology as well. But then you're going to get those kind of prices. So I wonder whether you couldn't produce the core functionality here. Of course, this is additive technology in its own right. But I wonder if you couldn't make a mold to do it and separate it into a couple of parts. But
I'm absolutely sure you could. And also, I mean, there's a choice of materials that's relevant as well, because if you what you 3D print with is really quite important. I mean, I'm just doing the absolute lowest level to get the prototypes out, but I've got some rather advanced materials. I was talking to the manufacturers of something called Igledur, which is a bearing material, and they can provide you with a material that is permanently immersed in water and will not have any effect on it at all. It's a good soft 3D printed plastic material, and it's expensive, but not hugely expensive. So, for example, I mean, I could produce that, I'm sure, in something that would be pretty much equivalent to injection molding, probably for a lot cheaper price.
Yeah, so I'm going to try and encourage him, because he wants to make a business of this. I'm going to encourage him, and maybe the community can have an opinion on this, because actually, since I posted the video, there's been several people just saying, I want one now. And I can't control that. I can forward those people to him so he can satisfy those needs. But I'm going to encourage him to make the 3D prints available, so that they can be repurposed. But maybe on because of where he's coming from, and he's already put a lot of work into this, and he intended to make it maybe I can say, look, make it available, but it's for non-commercial use, so that the people are.
I've talked to him already on the basis that if we took anything into the project, it would be non-commercial. We wouldn't be ripping him off in any sense at all.
Yeah,
I mean,
it would be nice for people out there that already have a 3D printer, and you know, maybe he can supply the other parts to them if they want to do that, or you provide a bill of materials for the particular things that are necessary.
I'm absolutely sure it could be done. I think the choice of printing material is absolutely essential for long life.
Yeah, I mean,
what I really wanted to talk to him about, you know, was his diamagnetism measurements in water.
Right. Yes.
You know, I've been struggling. I've now built 3 separate machines to measure the diamagnetic effect in water. My latest one I'm proudest of, which is my own invention again. It's a U-tube with a barometer from a sailplane on one end. The great thing about that is that it's highly sensitive. It measures every tiny flicker. And I've been trying to see if I can displace water and shock the barometer into producing some very accurate 3-digit at least information about diamagnetism. And I think I'm getting there. I think I'm producing it. The programming and so on with the Arduino is interesting. But I believe that Prof Osmira has actually got one, has actually got a machine which he's patented and which he's being a bit tight-lipped about. And I would love to actually have a chat with him about that.
So maybe I've invited him onto the MFMP for an interview a number of times, and he when you ask him like that, he just doesn't even respond.
No.
But like I asked him to come over to discuss these because of your project. And I couldn't keep him away. he said, "Can I come on Monday? Can I come on Tuesday?"
I would just love to get involved with that somehow, but I don't know how. We can perhaps discuss that separately.
Yeah, it's interesting because the whole spinning topic. If you go back to on the subject of rotating bodies or spinning bodies, there's a presentation by Baranov and Zatalepin, presented by Zatalepin at the 2018 Sochi conference, where maybe it's not there. No, it is there. Where they actually take a disc which is full with water, and they spin it one way, and the weight goes up, and spin it the other way, and the weight goes down. It's on a fulcrum, which in itself it's interesting.
Very interesting.
Yes.
the movement of water, I presume that what we're looking at there is some interesting interactions with the ether.
Yes, I think that's exactly it. And I think what they have done, if you can imagine, I mean, when I look at an ultra experiment, I'm imagining that one's going one way and one's going the other way. And that is why it punches down on one side of the yin yang and punches up on the other side of the yin yang until they get offset so that they're in some kind of balance with the loop going through.
Absolutely. Yes, it's not an unending change. It's just a step, isn't it?
It's a step. Then they reach some kind of electromagnetic balance, but it is a force in a direction that's in line with effectively perpendicular lines coming out of the Earth, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Very, very interesting. Of course, that's essentially what you would have with the tap. And I imagine if you notice in the video, he very specifically had a version of a cutaway where, not that it has the pins in there, he had the pins in there to show the flow direction.
The direction.
Because he said that the flow direction is absolutely critical to getting the water structured in the right way. And
his pins were clockwise, I think, weren't they?
We'll need to look at the video, but from
my memory, I think
it is. Like if you can imagine, if you're looking down the flow, they were pointing like that. So if I'm looking down like this, it's clockwise. So it'd be clockwise.
I think it was clockwise. Interesting.
I think it's clockwise. I'd love to replicate the Baranov experiment because I mean, it's not a massive effect, but then it's not
spinning disc with water and in a sensitive balance, presumably.
Yeah. So you can see the description, and the water is absolutely trapped in. How should we put it? It's like a barbell weight, like a standard old Soviet barbell weight, but filled with water and maybe a plastic. I think you can do it with other dielectrics as well. But I think water is this special thing that obviously it's polar and things align, and I think it does sweep the ether.
Water is getting scarier the more I study it. I just thought it was water when I started.
Yeah.
It stopped being water a while ago now.
Yeah, I mean, I actually wonder whether the effect would, and this is where someone has a blue ocean of opportunity to do an experiment, whether the same process would actually occur when you didn't have gases dissolved in there, like you didn't have oxygen and you didn't have nitrogen in there. Like, is it like this Sundaresan and Bockris, when you do the carbon arc underwater, you get no ion synthesized if you have no oxygen in the water. Is it actually the water itself or the oxygen that's in there that's important?
I'm pretty sure the gas is involved.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because like a nanobubble is still a bubble. And you on the boundary layer of a bubble, however small it is, you're going to have a charge separation induced into the water body itself. And so it's kind of like you're going to get clusters, and are those clusters then going to arrange themselves when it puts into a vortex? I mean, part of the reason that, and it's clearer on this version because he has that bit cut away, you can see it has these holes, and the venturi is sucking the air in
and bubbling out.
So that is forcing oxygenation of the water.
Agreed. Yeah. I think it's going to be very interesting to see. I might have a look at that experiment. It doesn't look too difficult to replicate.
You found it, have you?
I've got to know. I need the reference if you can find.
I can sort that out for you.
I'm at the moment though. I'm busy working on something for Ken Pratt.
Oh, wonderful! Do tell us, Ken. Do you want to jump in?
He's explained the mysteries of the Birkeland currents and these contra-rotating cylinders.
Wonderful. Ken, does he want to share his views?
Well, he's shared with me very generously his concept of the contra-rotating cylinders, and he's left me with an absolutely thorny engineering problem, which is actually making the damn things, because the ones he describes have got one stationary and one contra-rotating, but we really need several contra-rotating cylinders. And of course, this is just about within my engineering capabilities, and certainly just about within my ability to 3D print. But of course, Ken's aim is really towards getting energy out of this. And my aim is towards conditioning water with lots of EVOs in it. And so we don't quite have the same goal, but I think what I'm developing will probably be usable for him on his project as he goes forward. So I'm hoping to share that I'm hoping to finish it off this week. But the idea of narrow-spaced contra-rotating cylinders in water with varying electric currents and varying speeds of rotation is very interesting. And certainly on the video that Ken put up, it seemed to be showing quite a lot of, well, it's quite a lot of EVOs popping up just in a very simple system.
Wonderful.
And I think the more the merrier. It'll be interesting to see. But I'm hoping, Ken, if you're listening, I'm hoping, Ken, to see some plasmoids bubbling out of this in due course. Fingers crossed.
I expect quite a bit.
Great. It's lovely to see you and talk to you anyway. I'm working away. I'm getting the engineering done. And once that's done, I'll hand it back to you in a form that should be reproducible if you want. But
Yes,
for the moment, I'm getting to grips with rolling handmade aluminium cylinders to a very close tolerance, which is quite a lot of fun, but a bit, well, right at the edge of my abilities as a doctor, you know.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
human flesh than aluminium, but I'm getting there slowly. I'm certainly learning as I go. It's lovely to see you anyway.
Thank you. Very good. One of the things we do need to do is to develop a database baseline testing.
Well, yes, definitely data recording equipment.
Yes.
And things. I've got, I mean, I keep it simple because my thesis is to make things which pretty much everybody can do at home on their desktop for cheap. I'm sort of working at it from that point of view. So you'll find that my computers are generally tiny little Arduinos, but they do have a very good data logging ability and plotting ability. And of course, as you know, once the main system has been set up, I think Charles will have an amazing data logging capacity that we can tap into and use, and not only use, but share the data, which is going to be very exciting.
Good. I'd like to get a copy of the Arduino code and go over it.
I will when I've written
well.
it. I'll get it to you when I've written it. I'm still doing the mechanical engineering at the moment.
Well, of course, Artifact has been developing the data acquisition software for Arduino as well as for the LabJacks. And so he demonstrated that on the last call. So if you want to go and see some of the functionality there.
It was good, wasn't it? Very
yeah,
good.
Very, very good. Yes. So that's going to be a very affordable system. On the subject of aluminium, I have bought 2 different thicknesses because in ultra experiments we found different thicknesses of aluminium foil have different effects. So I have, what do I have? I have some 17 micron and some 11 micron. I could have got some 9 micron, and there's other thicker ones you can get. But these ones haven't got the extra surfacing on. They're just a straight surface. So that for the TIBI fusion type process, and I bought a 30 volt power supply here. He says it's 30. That's what he's charging the 4,700 microfarad capacitor. I thought, well, do I actually just need 4 old 9 volt batteries? And I thought, well, that's going to be 36 volts. No, probably I'll go for this. This is what he says works. And I bought this distilled water here. This is different to the one that I gave to the head of one of the European projects at the end of their project. This was a full US dollar for this. So actually, interestingly, the aluminium was the most expensive part of the experimental materials. But of course, you get 10 meters, so that's a hell of a lot of experiments you can do. And you know, if you epically fail, you can always use it in the household. It's not like a sunk cost that's a lost cost. So I was going to try and do a live experiment for you guys on here, but I didn't get my stuff together quite.
Next time, please. Next time.
Well, I think I'll probably do some experiments before then because I want to get it under high-speed macro photography.
I've also got the same gear, but I haven't got the high-speed photography, so I'll have a go as well.
Okay.
You know.
Excellent, wonderful. So, and what came out of the meeting for those that are not aware, the group, the Hermes group, that I think had about 6 million euros from the European Union, they concluded, and after 4.5 years, the head of that group phoned me up out of the blue and said, did I want to give a speech at their closing meeting? And he then apologized for about 2 hours during the course of the meal with all of these people from all over Europe. and it turns out that they actually didn't do a low-energy nuclear reaction experiment. It was meant to be done in Finland. They prepared the materials here in the Czech Republic and I think in the UK, but there was never actually the palladium deuterium experiment run. They were asked to do palladium deuterium and also the CR39 experiments, which they didn't have much luck, which they actually did that one, but and it was very bizarre. But they reached out, and he says, you know, I was told not to speak to the MFMP, but now the project has ended today. I thought I can actually speak to you now.
Bob, what on earth could you do with that much money if you decided to?
I don't know, but honestly, it's probably for 24 times the amount of money we've spent since inception.
Exactly.
I mean, these people, they actually produce quite a few papers, but they're kind of like characterizing the metallurgy of silver in palladium and these kind of things. So, but what it may do is give us an opportunity. I handed him some distilled water and a 4,700 microfarad capacitor at the dinner, and said, "Don't use it all at once." And I said I'd like to do it. So I might actually be speaking to him either Thursday or Friday. He said he really wanted to work with us. If that's the case, then we might. He actually runs SciTech, which is the Central European Informatic Technology Center. And essentially what it is when the European Union funds a piece of equipment to go in some fancy university somewhere, and it's like top notch, they give them about a 5-year runway in which to keep it maintained and so on. When that then expires and the university or institution or whatever it is doesn't have money to keep it going, they actually ship it to this center if it hasn't already got one, and then it's free for anyone in Europe to book at a university, right? So they can fly to Brno, but it's actually only 12 minutes up the road on the tram with me. So they have everything there.
Wow.
And so he said, you really want to work with me? And I said, okay, so don't lie to me, and we need to be open. And then the third thing is, I'll see how much you want to lie, to how much you want to work. And I said, I've got all these vials from various Binge and Huang reactors. Can you tell me the isotopic analysis of these? And they asked around the table. They go, yeah, I think we can do that. So I didn't know where I could get this done, but I might have this. And Bin had asked me if there was somewhere. I had no idea where I could get it done. And this event happened last Thursday, and it looks like we can get that done. So it might mean that we have access. That they have transmission electron microscopy. It's like it's a 4-meter high thing, and it can look at atoms. They have SEMs that have ion beams, so they can slice either through a sample or they can take off layers of a sample to look inside it and see transmutation through the depth, which is tools that I've never used. They've got secondary ion mass spectrometry, so they can look at that.
Bob, I'd like to call this serendipity, but I've got an idea it was meant to be like that, huh?
Yeah, so sometimes I mean, he says, I can't believe the last time I spoke to you was over 4.5 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he brought this one of the team leads from Poland and one of the team leads from Aalto University and from Uppsala and stuff, and they sat around and I handed them the Matsumoto book. And they started reading and they go, why didn't we have access to this information? They were literally really quite angry. Yeah, so I don't know. Sometimes things happen for the best reason. As a project with what Charles is doing, we're really taking the conversation forward.
One of the things we ought to do once the EVO Labs is off the ground and running and got some work under its belt, is to get it academic credentials of some sort.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just thinking getting us registered on ResearchGate, but I mean, there must be a few other places we need.
That's not a bad idea. I mean, I keep getting asked by ResearchGate to certify who I'm affiliated to.
Yeah, it's me too. It annoys me.
And it's like, I don't really know how to answer that question.
Well, I have mentioned that to Chris, so I'm hoping he's taken that on board.
Yeah. Moreover, I was meant to see Yanrak today, but I'm quite ill, so I didn't want to drive the 2 hours 45 minutes to go and see him. But I will hopefully be doing that next week, and there will be lots of updates. He has put together an amazing system to replicate the work of Henk. It has it's not what I would call garage. It looks quite safe. I kind of like the outbuildings, all high-powered three-phase stuff capacitors with high voltages covered over with the cardboard box that Henk has, which is it's just this wonderful just get it done approach. But because he has lots of employees working with him, he has to make things so that they fail safe. But he's done a really nice setup there, and he's gearing up to do full-on replications of what Henk has done. So that's great, because David Butlier did some brilliant ones on the movement of EVOs in a chamber, and his work was core to understanding those. But he didn't replicate things like the Vega Valley and these disappearing areas of copper and these kind of more interesting things that are going on. And so he may be in a position to do that, and he may also be in a position to get what the people that I rent it off call the MFMP SEM, which is the one that I normally rent in Prague for about $1,000 a day. They're threatening to sell it to someone else, so we get basically a third off that, because they're giving back to the project all the money we've spent on it for the last 3.5-4 years, and also the amortized depreciation on it. But they've guaranteed they will service it for up to 7 years. They will be there to service it, and they'll give it a brand new cerium, whatever it is, source, and they're going to give it a year's warranty. So I'm sure I can break it within a year if I get more access to it. But what this means is we might have even more affordable SEM analysis, either different stuff up the road at SciTech or in Prague. And of course, if there's bulk screening technology and I have the time, I can go to America and with my dear colleague, Alan Goldwater.
Yeah. Charles, could I ask you something? You were talking about acquiring an EVO Labs SEM machine. Is this what Bob's talking about?
That's the one. That's the one.
Just to confirm that, I've just linked the two things.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's a better outcome because we have 2 backup devices in case he doesn't keep his commitment to be open and accessible. But we don't lose the option on buying it. And it means Charles can keep his powder dry for the incredible work that he's doing in setting up this one-of-a-kind platform for open science. So I think it's a win-win-win situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so is there any questions in the chat? Did you spot anything, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, so Alex would like to appeal to the community if possible. I know we've had a couple of remote viewers reach out to us. But yes, if you are a remote viewer and you would like to take part in an experiment that won't harm anyone, and all the results will be open on blockchains, so everyone will be able to see it, so everyone will be able to determine what's going on and who's being honest, please reach out to Alex Lozman. You can reach him through me, or he's on the unofficial Discord. But I think he may even be in chat as well. But yeah, send an email to me and I'll put you in touch with him. Charles@evo-labs.io if you are a remote viewer. Secondly, if you want to work on a GEAT or a Thunderstorm in a collaborative effort in Yankee Land in America, Alex is also looking for something. So for some people who would like to take part in that, he's quite well connected with the Geek community and the Thunderstorm community. So if you'd like to take part in that, that's another initiative taking place as well. Fingers crossed I've done him justice. Yes, I think that's it, Bob.
Yeah, so I have a very interesting person I met in Café Central in Vienna on Monday. And it turns out it's this guy here. He's called Wilhelm. So I'll show you a picture here. He's showing me his wares on his laptop here. But he has this company he's been running since 1985, and he has 60,000 installations of his technology around the world. And what it is essentially it has a metal ring, and then it has a helical spiral antenna that goes to 3 angled rings. And then this is all put into a plastic container. And this is can be in 2 modes. And literally you turn it upside down to switch it into the other mode. And in one mode, it is designed to push water out of buildings to dehydrate them. So often these old stately homes or castles or places that have high water tables end up with water coming in and moving up the brickwork, and it produces black mold and these kind of things. And he was describing it that there's some sort of ether pressure that comes down and pushes down the water. But when you look at it, it looks exactly like to my mind, but that might just be my mind, a 3-tor sub-tor structure. And he actually
drives it, Mike. What drives it, Bob? What's the driving mechanism?
It's solid state.
And it's high voltage
solid
AC.
State. There's no power.
So it doesn't require any electrical input.
No, none at all.
So it's going to have to be
it sets up a vortex. And what they found is that underneath it, according to him, it produces a cone that goes into it, and above it produces a slightly tighter beam. But of course, because it's only 3 such structures in the top, then it's not going to be a very focused beam. You need 4 to 6 minimum really to get a tight beam. But they've actually detected the beam that comes up 2 or 3 stories above. But like I say, it's been going since 1985.
Have you given it a name, Bob? What's he called it?
Let me just have a look. And it turns out I went to look at his website, and apparently in late last year he contacted Rossi, and it looks like he's a distributor and a pre-order guy for Rossi as well, and several other things that he's doing. So I had no idea when I went to meet him. So let me just find that for you. So
what was his name?
Wilhelm something. It was
Wilhelm.
Austrian.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Austrian Wilhelm.
He's basically the owner of the company.
And the gadget was called?
I'm going to get there for you. So, no. It might have been through email. It's called aquapol.international.com. And he has another site called oevr.at.
oevr.at. Thank you very much indeed. I should be looking at that with some interest.
So yeah, if you look at the aquapulse, actually, I can probably share that. Maybe I can. How can I do that? Let's do it like this and share this screen. Let me share that screen. Here. Okay, this is going to be awkward for people on YouTube. Sorry, you'll have to look at it yourself. Sorry. No, let me see if I can do better than that. I will drag it. I'll do it the other way around. It won't let me do that because Zoom's taken over that screen. Sorry for those people on YouTube. Right, this should work. Right, we'll do it the other way around. Okay. Don't know how this is going to mess up the recording, but we'll see. Share, and we will do desktop 2. Okay. Okay. Oh, now it's got rid.
Got it. Thank you.
You can see it there, can you?
Yeah.
I can't see it, which is weird, which means people on YouTube can't see it as well. Anyway, that's the website, and you can see him holding the antenna there. Can you? Is that right?
Yes, I can.
Right. Okay. It's just weird. I can't see it, but
The Earthfinder.
yeah. So I'm just gonna stop sharing, and then oh, that's because Zoom's gone full screen again. How tedious. Right. let's try once more. Not desktop. We'll just do that one, the window. Okay, all right. The Finder. Okay, and it won't let me move that. Okay, this is tedious. All right, so yeah, this is actually the antenna device. So it has these beams that come out of the center of these tori, which are arranged, 3 of them. And then it has a tori at the bottom and a coil that comes up into the central node. So it's kind of like, I guess, in the structure of a tetrahedron, these beams with these what look like copper bands held together by brass fittings. And it apparently has been proven, founded in 1985, and it's used all over the world. He said, I think in 46 countries or something.
So this moves sort of water that's saturating masonry.
Yes, essentially. So let me go back here.
It's actually vaporizing it, isn't it, Bob? It's actually evaporating.
No, that's not what he said. I think it might be. It might be doing that, but that's not what he said. He said it's producing a force that's pushing the water down into the water table, and he says that they have another one which is used for raising the water table for plants, and you put them in fields and you switch the thing into the other way up, and so it's like a pull force.
Oh wow, that's my mind boggled again.
Yeah, well, that's less confusing for me, actually. In fact, neither of them are that confusing. If you create this vortex ether, it's going to be pulling
either up or down.
Up or down.
Yeah,
the same thing we were discussing with the ultra experiment. The same thing with the net positive and negative movement. But he may actually be moving water molecules in the air, and that is leading to a vortex in the ether, and then that is doing the pulling or the pushing. But it's a very subtle effect. It takes like 7 or 8 months to push the water out of the walls.
But he can raise a water table in the same period of time to feed a field or whatever.
Yeah.
Is he willing to talk, about his secret invention?
It's not secret. You can see it on the website.
I know, but he's selling it, presumably.
Well, certainly the presentation he gave me was one that looked like he had given it 1,000 times. And it looked like it's promotional material. Now, I can't really talk because I got a little bit crazy. But he has some interesting ideas. He calls it space energy. He thinks that the center of the Earth has water core. And it's like what's in the center of the sun, what's in the center of a proton. It might be water, it might be, but the assumption is from seismic events and from nuclear bomb testing, volcanoes, earthquakes, and stuff. You can actually map the internals of the Earth based on the sound waves and when they're picked up by various seismometers. So that's how they kind of work out the structure of the inside of the Earth. Now, is the water in the center of the Earth a super solid or a supercritical water? Like, obviously, it's going to be supercritical if it's in the center of the Earth. It's going to be under high pressure, but it's probably going to be quite high temperature.
Well, there are 5 sorts of ice crystals to start with, and some of them have got, as you say, under high pressure, could be forming at high temperatures.
Yeah, so, but my view is it doesn't matter how you get to the answer. And in his pictures, he draws a squashed toroid with this field. And this is interesting because of the angle of his rings, that's kind of what I would expect. And so I don't know, but here's the thing. If it works, it works. And there's testimony to say it does. And it literally is in line with everything else we're talking about. And for you specifically in water.
Absolutely. Wow, I'm going to look at that very closely.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a new way of looking at it. I mean, I've done one completely stand on my head reversal when Ken told me about Birkeland currents and what they could do. Now I've got to do another one. Thank you very much.
Sorry, but it's a huge problem, moisture in buildings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can dry out a building, especially an old, delicate building,
yes,
in a few months with a gadget like that,
yeah,
that's worth it.
And it's passive. I personally would not want to be under or above the device.
Because of the beams, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not sure that would be very good for you either way, whether it's pushing through you or pulling from you.
I was just watching Griffin Brock's delightful presentation of the X-ray of his skull taken with his tube.
Yeah, the guy's got balls, I have to say.
He's got balls, but maybe
he's got 18th century balls as well.
Absolutely. I'm glad you told him about shielding. I hope he takes it off.
Yeah. Well, I actually think, and I've spoken to quite a lot of people about that. I don't think it is as harmful as normal X-rays.
I've certainly showed that with plants. He certainly showed less damage with plants. Well, no damage, but less.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a partial absorption, but from my understanding, these things exist in us all of the time anyway. It's just a higher flux going through us, and it will cause potentially some beta decay of potassium and carbon-14, potassium-14, carbon-14. However, the damage that's done by X-ray, because they're just high ionized, is broad spectrum, and you know, as you know, that can lead to easy formation of cancer.
Absolutely. It does look on the face of it safer in quotes, but it's very difficult.
It's also able to work at a much higher distance, and because of its collimation, much better focusing. So you might find that you get away with a lot lower energy. On that subject, David Boutelier is trying to work out the range, and he's done some crazy high energy testing with it, and he's got a remote device, but his problem now is his remote device to turn on the Desmotron, the Wi-Fi radio thing. He's reached the limit of how his remote trigger works.
Oh dear.
So he probably should get, you know, a couple of 100 meters of actual physical cable.
It's as good as a laser beam, isn't it, really, in terms of its collimation? I mean,
I honestly think it is a very watered down version of the Podkletnov beam. The Podkletnov beam is one massive impulse, whereas this one is much smaller impulses, and it's like a pulse train. So it's much lower intensity. It's not punching holes through things at 5 kilometers away. Yeah, so the opportunities there are huge, though. So have you seen any other comments? Does anyone else want to ask questions in the chat?
Alex Lozman needs to give out his address, his email address.
Is that something you want to do on a public YouTube video? Yeah, sure. Is it your actual email address, or is it a burner email?
It is. I'm feeling bold.
Okay, all right, okay.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
I mean, we know what happens with public invites. We've seen what's happened before, but hey, I'm really glad these videos haven't been interrupted by anything.
I've got a waiting room now. You were held in it, if you might remember.
Yeah. All right. Well, here it goes, you guys. It's lexicongalt@gmail.com. That's lexicon like the word, and Galt like the last name of John Galt, GALT, @gmail.com. And contact me about the remote viewing project, as well as anybody interested in fuel reforming engine retrofit technology, GEAT or thunderstorm generator stuff.
Yeah, on that note, I have got a message here from Malcolm from a few days ago. He's currently in India with Jordan and another. Let me just get that for you. Carry on. What's your vision then, Alex?
Oh boy. Well, I didn't think I would have to describe it today.
Describe it.
But I can do that. It's the idea is that there are many individual effects and components that seem to be doing things all together in both the GEAT and the thunderstorm generator. Because there's so many different effects, I want to verify each component, the effects that are going on in it, and then come up with a better way to combine all of these individual things. Because obviously there's a lot of different things you can do to fuel to make it more efficient. There's a lot of things you can do with adding water. And both of them seem to be able to reduce emissions. And I'm thinking we can do all three of those things more efficient than has ever been done before if we verify each component and each effect.
Right. And keeping it open source.
Of course.
It's a safety feature. It really is. Anyone keeping secrets is putting themselves at risk these days.
I saw a video of Stephen Greer talking about a scientist down in Florida who has an over Unity technology that uses about 10% hydrocarbon mixed with water, and it showed this individual pouring water into the back of a kind of Honda scooter, and I thought, I recognise that. That's Ed Grimm down in which I visited, and that's that scooter that he said he wouldn't run for us. and he actually commented on the fact that someone came down and was all very keen to see these technologies, and then all he did was show him running around on this scooter. So now I've got both ends of the story. I've seen the video of Stephen Greer talking about this guy that has a working technology, and showing the bit that was complained about by Ed Grimm as the only thing that was shown. Yeah. So let me see if I can find this image. So basically, Malcolm says he's got a whole bunch of thunderstorm generators ready to go. I don't know whether these are, and I assume they are, a good proportion of them are for customers. He does say that he is committed to sending some out to the group in Norway and Sweden and Denmark that I had a chat with last week. So let me just find this.
He was changing over to laser welding to stop leaks, the last time I heard.
Yeah. Yes. Right. Okay, here we go. So yes, he says 184 4-inch spheres.
Wow.
Okay, so that's the latest status on that.
I hope he's got one in there for me. He owes me one.
Oh, he does? Okay.
He sent me a Duff one by accident. So
he sent you a Duff one? Like, yeah. Is this one you paid for?
Oh, yeah, and it leaks.
Right, okay.
He's going to send me a laser welded one, I'm told.
Okay,
we'll see.
Good. That's
but if good. You know, it's like having a Vajra, isn't it? You have your Vajra on your desk, and your symbolic thunderstorm generator, just as a talisman, really, you know.
Yeah.
I'd like one that works.
I'm not surprised. Yes. Where is the leak? Is it like on the weld seams?
No, it's in the inner. It's in the inner tube.
Oh, so it's not something you can fix yourself easily.
No, it's not. It's inside. But I mean, actually, what it is that the Thai welders who were running these off were clearly not very well briefed, and they did a pretty shoddy job. I actually showed the thing to my stepson-in-law, who's a welder himself, and I got a bad review, really. So I think that they were quite smart to avoid manual welding and go to laser welding, which I think is what they're doing.
Right, wonderful. Well, it's good to see that these things are being ironed out. Yeah, cool.
A few emails went back and forth about it, I can tell you. Your welding is rotten, how dare you?
I can imagine him saying, how dare you, the way that he says it. Yeah. Good. Ian McKelland is saying, my new one is in the mail. When you say new one, did yours have a hole in it as well?
Yes, mine had a hole in it. I went through quite the
well,
trying to get
consistent.
Well, no, they were very good with it, actually. They let me know right away.
Yeah.
And so it just shows me there's R&D, there's they're going to stand behind their product. They're sending me a new one, and that means I've got this one. So when I get the other one going, I can hand one to somebody and they can look at it, feel it, right?
Yeah.
Touching and feeling is important, right?
Absolutely.
Oh,
when I hung out with the guys from the Hermes European project, I took 2 Henk Urian samples to get to them. The one that I love, which is the iron plate with the brass, with the yin yang and the pyramid on the back and the deposit, and then the one with the sphere taken out, the hemisphere taken out. because they can actually see what's happened, and they have to come to terms with the impossibility to explain it from ordinary thermal melting. And it's just not. And the fact that it lines up with what Matsumoto observed, and it lines up with the magnetohydrodynamic structure, that you're seeing the manifestations of the processes in Binzhuan Huang's system. Yeah, I mean, essentially at the end of the conversation, Yan just sat back and he says, I'm convinced that I have no way to say anything else when you see this kind of data. And that's it. It needs to be at a point where it's self-evident. And that's what I like, for instance, about the GEAT. If you do manage to get a team together, Alex, it would be great to capture the ball lightning on the top of the structure, because in my understanding, that is where you have the change of space-time in that ball, and it produces blue light because it's got other light going into higher frequencies. And if you can, something that's never been done with that, it's to get a spectrometer in there in the UV and see if it is actually UV, because there's no reason why you would get UV coming out of that. And
it's interesting. I agree 100%. The experiment done with the viewport where the plasma was visible was one of the greatest experiments I've seen done. And we're not in touch with the person who did that, unfortunately, but we can replicate it. Yeah, I forgot what else I was going to mention, but yeah, the plasma. Oh, and it's not just X-rays. I believe it was BYU and the University of Utah that did an experiment and tested the GEAT, and they detected gamma rays.
Well, gamma rays will be coming from, they can only really come from nuclear events unless they're classing gamma as being annihilation or beyond that. Because when we had the GS 5.2, we did see a very large spread spectrum of X-rays. And X-rays typically emitted from electron orbital shifts in matter can't go beyond
Bremsstrahlung.
No, I'm talking about, you promote an electron and then it comes back. You should only get an X-ray of around about less than 20 kilo electron volts, like typically less than 15. So you shouldn't be getting more than 20. So gamma is, typically outside of the range of what an X-ray can be produced by characteristic X-rays. And then you're getting into this thing that Barkla discovered, J radiation, which I think is blowing up charge clusters. And so I talked about that in my stream last week, but I think this is to be expected. But if you can find that data, it would be interesting to see. I mean, we saw several authors when we published our findings in 2014 and then 2016 respectively, for one that we called gamma and the other one that we called the truth is in the signal. People reached out to us with their experiments and they were seeing up to 300 kilo electron volts. Of course, that isn't an annihilation to gamma of an electron and positron, but you should be able to get that as well. And these things should come out of an exotic vacuum object pushed to the extreme, but only if it's constantly going, in my view, between stability and instability, where it hasn't wound itself down, it's blown up, and so it spits out its guts, and it's a bit of a messy output. I'm very interested to see if you could ever replicate the vortex that came. He had a tube, and he describes it in the Book of Geats, and he actually has a video where he talks about it, and where there's a tornado that comes down. There was some water on the floor, and it starts lifting up into a vortex, and it's going to the top end of the gate, and it's not touching it, but he went to touch it, and he got a huge electric shock. And that in itself is, in my view, where you have, let's say, a minimum of, because he has water, he's quite likely to have a 2-fractal structure, right? And so he's going to have the overall structure, but he's going to have a 2-Tor structure up there. And if one is aligned so its beam is facing down, like on the Griffin-Brock electrode, you've got one pushing back and one pushing forward. So if you can imagine that's like that, one's going up into the sky, but one's coming down with its vortex. That's lifting the water, and it's charge separating and causing the water to turn to a gas without it being hot, and it's being pulled up. But the fact that he said that he got a huge electric shock from it implies that it is pulling the chi out of it and also breaking the chi up. And that for me is one of the most important anecdotes relating to the geek. That and the fact that the whole tube disappeared at one point, apparently.
Yeah, I've heard all the legends. I've spoken with Paul when he was still with us, and I'm still friends with his son David. And yeah, if I understand correctly, we need to get that data from BYU and University of Utah. I live in Utah, so that won't be any issue. And we should try to replicate that experiment where we can get shocked.
Yeah, that would be truly awesome. But like to actually be able to capture from a metal tube, something is coming out and lifting a volume of water in a vortex off the ground. That is doing all kinds of messy things to the head. And it speaks also to this aquapole system that I was referring to earlier from Wilhelm. I think it's all the same kind of process. It's exactly what's happening in a tornado. And we're all using the same process at different levels. And it also explains why you had to treat a geet rod by, if you had certain type of geet rod, you had to start it off running north. To condition it. Once you conditioned it, you could run it in any orientation, but you had to start it running north-south.
Yeah, the magnetization of the rod and the whole tube system seemed to be a really important factor. And also having the rod not suspended by anything. It has to just be free floating. Yeah. And I always thought, again, that reinforces the idea that the vortex dynamics are very important. Magnetism, its vortex apart from the liquid, the fluid dynamics vortexing, and also a plasma at the end of the rod. And I've heard it described at both ends of the rod or either end of the rod. So it'll be interesting to see how that works.
The way I look at it is it's like a yin and yang. And because he describes in some of his accounts where there's an electric arcing from one side to the other, which means one must be positive and the other one must be negative for that to occur.
And the rod has a point on one end and a dimple on the other.
Yeah, so the point will, as the gas comes in here and it's going, it's got one hydrodynamic flow that way. As it comes up to, that part is same as a Rankirch vortex. So as it comes in, it produces this kind of vortex. But as it comes along the back end of the tube, it's producing a counter vortex. So one is literally the opposite of the other. And so it's not surprising that they have a difference in charge there. So yeah, I mean, it's very, very interesting. And one will be tearing the matter apart. And there was systems talking about doing atomization of fuel for more efficient burning. But if you can separate and even split it down so you've got single atoms, radicals of carbon and radicals of hydrogen, they're going to burn very, very efficiently in a combustion chamber. So, yeah, great. Well, good luck. And yeah, if you've got access to Paul Panto, but please, if you can, focus on getting that data from BYU and sharing it, because I think we could learn a lot with what we understand about exotic vacuum objects nowadays.
I agree. I have two short things I'll add just before I quit talking, but I remembered, and I should have mentioned it earlier, my friend Dorian Demetrulius has a really nice scooter running on Geet. He pours in old crude, old rancid cooking oil and a little bit of water, and he can drive his motorcycle 100 miles on a gallon of that.
Fantastic.
On the other note, I wish I could have got this to you for your lithium presentation, but I found a patent of a man named Harry S. Kaplan, who patented putting lithium in his fuel. He was just using lithium grease for the experiments, but and he claimed that it not only increased fuel efficiency, but it was definitely doing fusion. It's crazy the stuff you can get patented.
Yes, I'm very interested in that, of course. I mean, yeah. Very interesting.
The patent number is 4668247.
Okay.
With an A at the end.
I will review
for
that.
anybody else who wants to look it up too.
Thank you very much, Alex. That's really great. Okay, so has anyone else got any comments? Did you pick anything up from YouTube, Charles?
Sorry, I've got a cat sat on my mouse at the moment. He's obviously thinks it's a real mouse, so it takes a while to move around. No, I haven't seen any comments on YouTube. If anybody would like to fire any comments in there, I shall try my very best to ask Bob.
You had mentioned a minute ago that you believed that the Aquapole device was probably doing the same thing with the vortex, same thing as the Geet that you had mentioned. I was browsing patents while you all were talking, and I found it's Wilhelm Mohorn, it appears.
Yeah.
And he has another patent in addition to the one for the device that you were talking about. He has another patent called Device for Intensifying or Reversing a Geogravomagnetic Field that references the patent for the device that you were showing off.
Yeah, so that's what he believes he's manipulating.
Yep.
In his presentation to me on Monday, that's he walked through his justification for that. And it's funny because I started the conversation with talking about how the Earth is growing and there's a flux of stuff coming in, and he had the actual people that first proposed that in his presentation, which he pulled out, and it's part of his patois for selling his device. Let me see, because I actually took some photos and I actually haven't had time to investigate it. So people out there might like to look at this because he had some beautiful pictures of this guy that first proposed. Also, he had a book in there on the synthesis of elements in the crust. This guy around about 2000, he was a little bit behind Matsumoto, but he has written a whole book about it, to be fair. So here's this guy. He's transformation of blah, blah, blah. Professor Heinz Haber. So he's literally got a balloon with the continents on there and he's blowing it up. You see that? And this was in 1965 that he was proposing that. And then he has a whole picture here, which I grabbed off his laptop. And this was Vom Waschenden Erdball, and this is from 1933. So he's got the Earth and showing how, as the Earth grew, the continents separated from 1933. So these are not new ideas. The question is, what is making the Earth grow so much bigger? And obviously, the question is, where is all the water coming from? And if we know that one of the biggest products that come out of Lena is hydrogen and the other one is oxygen, it must be because that's the highest element in the Earth's crust, then maybe that's where the water comes from. So yeah, 1933, this chap here. Is that one?
Wow.
Bob, if I may.
Yeah. Go on.
I have a theory that aside from Leonard going on in the center of the Earth, which I also think is happening, I believe that the Earth was once a very large metallic object that's begun rusting, and rust expands a lot.
Well, there's that. Yeah. If somehow it's producing water and oxygen and so forth, that's going to cause it to rust, isn't it? Certainly rust, I think it can, if you go straight from iron to rust, I think it's something like a 10 times expansion. It's quite large. You get these iron content rocks, and then the rust starts forming in them and it smashes them up. So here's this other guy about synthesis of stuff. Thomas Gold, great name for someone talking about synthesis in the crust. The deep hot biosphere, the myth of fossil fuels. And it's funny because before he showed me this, I was talking about how this explains, the blood of the Earth, how hydrocarbons can form abiogenically, and then this was also in his presentation here. So it's called the deep hot biosphere, the myth of fossil fuels. And we know that it was created as a myth, fossil fuels, in Vienna, in order to give it the notion that it was of limited supply. So that's it, the deep hot biosphere by von Thomas Gold. So there were some things in his presentation that I thought everyone should be aware of.
What was the previous name regarding the Earth expansion?
Well, there was two characters. One was there's this guy here, OTT Christoph Hilgenberg, 1869 to 1976. This chap here, Hilgenberg. And I think you'll have to disambiguate these. There was this vom Waschenschurden Erdball, Berlin, 1933. So, yeah, das Waschtum der Erd ist by. I'm going to muller that. There, 1933.
Wow.
So yeah, as I regularly say, no idea is new.
I thought I would
all
try
of the
to
right ideas are going to be eternal.
I thought I would try to cross-reference those guys with Emmanuel Velikovsky and see if there was anything that any wires that were crossed between all those guys.
Oh, they probably hung out in the same bars. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions, Ian, Ken? Anyone in the chat ask anything in YouTube? If not. So Charles, if you just want to do a summary of the where we're at and where you see us targeting for next month.
Where we're at right now is trying to produce an MVP for the end of the month for our proposal stuff so that we can begin testing. Fingers crossed by the end of the month we have our soulbound tokens at least on a test net so that we can start testing that as well. And then it's testing, we think, over the following month. And fingers crossed we have a product ready to go for September. And we've left ourselves quite a lot of leeway just to make sure that we get there in time. But yeah, everyone's pulling their weight. It's really, really good. It's excellent to turn up every single morning and see what exciting stuff's going on. So yeah, I'm really buzzing about it, and I'll echo Bernie's sentiments. I think this is one of the most exciting things in crypto. I think when we get going, people aren't going to really understand how we've come from almost nowhere to be a fully fledged DAO and actually do some crypto stuff. So it's going to be really exciting, and I think we're going to turn a lot of heads. So yeah. It's awesome times ahead.
Thank you very much for spearheading this whole thing, Charles. Really, I want to echo Paul's comments earlier. It's really a huge undertaking you've done here, and I don't know anyone else that could possibly have done this. So thank you very, very much. I'm sure everyone in the community is very happy that you're in charge here.
Yeah, right person, right time, as Tony Giovanni keeps saying.
Yeah. Okay, all right, so thank you very much. This was EVO Call 7, EVO Labs DAO Call 7, and I will see you in the 7th of May, Wednesday the 7th of May. Catch you later, guys. Really nice chatting to you all.